live streaming service. Okay. I know it takes
Yeah,
a few seconds for all the data to get out on the interwebs over
yeah,
to us.
yeah.
Waiting,
So we are now
waiting.
live.
We're now live. Okay, wonderful. And I see myself on YouTube. Okay, I'm going to turn that off because that is very distracting. Watching yourself 30 seconds delayed.
Yeah, the delay is always, the delay gets me every single time. You're
Yeah.
like looking like, it's like you're like, am I supposed to say something now? And then 30 seconds later,
All right.
feels like you're in the Matrix.
It does. But we are not in the Matrix. We are in our virtual offices in this world of virtual accounting. And I'm so excited to talk to you, Nayo, about this. This is one of my favorite topics in the whole world, is running a remote firm because, okay, well, now I'm going to start over because we just started recording. So welcome everyone to Financial Sense webinar. We're talking today about virtual accounting. And I'm here with Nayo Carter-Gray. Nayo, how's it going?
It's going great. Hi, Blake Oliver and Financial Sense team. Thank you so much for inviting me. As you know, this is one of my favorite topics too, so I'm excited about today. I couldn't wait.
Oh, so great to talk to you. I am Blake Oliver, CPA. I'm your host for this webinar series. Financial Sense recently surveyed accounting and bookkeeping firms for the 2023 State of Accounting Workflow Automation report, and 53% of respondents identified themselves as virtual firm owners. By the way, you can get the report via the link in the chat. There's a lot of useful information in there, so do grab that. We'll drop that in the chat. There was a time when virtual accounting wasn't really a thing. I remember that. You remember that, Nayo?
Yes,
data security
sure
and the compliance nature of the job made on-site work the norm. But with the pandemic in 2020, a lot of things changed, and fully virtual accounting firms are becoming more of the norm than traditional brick and mortar firms. It's actually, Nayo, that's a good question. What do you think the balance is right now? If you had to say anecdotally, how many firms are brick and mortar? How many firms are virtual? How many are in this hybrid state?
I still feel like it's like 50-50. So you have your, I feel like that more on the tax professional side, if they're strictly doing taxes primarily, then they lean heavy on the brick and mortar side versus, the accounting professionals who are embracing advisory in addition to those compliance services. They are more of our hybrids, our virtual offices. So I still feel like it's kind of 50-50 there.
Yeah, I saw a report recently of professional services in general, and I was surprised. Well, maybe I wasn't, but the number was actually pretty low for the fully virtual firms. It was like 10, 11% of entire, this is across the whole country, of professional firms are fully virtual. Then there's this huge group in the middle that's in this sort of hybrid state. And then you've got the minority that are still fully in the office every single day. But there's been all this talk recently about how so many firms that were hybrid are now pulling their people back into the office, and that's creating a lot of discontent. And, I'm actually curious, if you're attending live, if you're joining us live today, what is the situation in your firm? Are you getting pulled back into the office? Are you staying hybrid? Are you fully virtual? Do you have opinions on this? Because we want to hear you on that. I myself have a very strong opinion. I love virtual. I had a virtual firm starting 10 years ago. So let's talk about that, Nayo. In your opinion, why would an accounting firm want to consider going virtual or at least hybrid?
So virtual to me is always the way to go. And a lot of the reason why is the freedom and flexibility of it. It is, it gives you an opportunity to really work on your terms. So I've had traditional accounting roles where I had to be sitting at my desk at 8 a.m., but 8 a.m. is not my peak productivity time. So I'm like a zombie from 8 to 10. And 5 p.m. when it's time for me to clock out and leave, I'm like ready to do a bunch of work. So I knew when I started my firm that I had to figure out a way to be able to manage how I worked on my own terms and not be chained to the desk. So, when we started the firm, when I started the firm back in '08, full time, I did have an office space, but we were paperless from the start. So people would drop their documents off, we would scan them and send them on their way. I was hosting QuickBooks Desktop because I was just like, I cannot be chained to this desk. That is just not the life I wanted for myself.
Yeah.
So now, if anybody is questioning why they should do this, it's really looking at, when am I most productive? Do I really have to be sitting in this particular location to get things done? How can I expand my reach? And those are really like the three key things for me.
And expanding your reach in terms of, I mean, we're not just talking about clients, we're talking about employees. Maybe employees are the most important thing, right? Because if you're a virtual firm, you can hire from anywhere in the country. Whereas if you're requiring employees to come into the office, it's like your city and the surrounding area, and that's kind of it, right?
Yes. And so like my team, we have a team member in Jamaica, team member in Texas, and one that's local. So we do have a mix of, virtual as well as in person. My team does have the option if they want to work from home. The local team member, I should say. So she has that option, but she's like me. We like a little structure. We come into the office and plug away and then go home. And if I need to, I can plug away on the couch.
So you have an office. You're in your office right now. It looks very cozy. You've done a great job making it feel like a home. Would you consider what you're doing to be fully virtual, or is it hybrid?
So we have an office space, but we don't see clients here. So I'm a virtual office who's renting an external space. That's what I like to say. And the reason being is because, I'm a structured girl. So I like being able to come in, do work, and then when I want to leave, and then I can leave it all here. Plus, this office gives me the ability to build a nice, cute space that I don't have to share with anybody in the house or them complain about my big picture back here. Like, I don't want to see that. So I'm like, it's my office. I can put whatever I want in here. Like I have a recliner over in this corner. So whenever I want to take a nap, I can. I got a little table with 2 chairs over on the other side. So, I sit over there, eat lunch and watch TV.
So what do you think are the biggest differences between a firm like yours and a brick and mortar firm? You said you don't see clients at the office. Is that the biggest difference, or is there more?
So really for me, it's that's probably the biggest difference is really seeing clients in the office. Some of my clients know we are here and they may drop documents off, but nobody is required to be sitting there or setting the appointment where we have to open the door. Because what that means is like I can take off on a weekday and not be here. And if I want to come in on a weekend and work quietly, we still have traditional hours. We operate by email, we use client portals, but with a brick and mortar, you have set number of hours. Somebody has always got to be there. There's just this expectation that you have to be available when somebody says you have to be available, because if they make an appointment, you got to be there.
We got a lot of chatter going on LinkedIn. We are streaming this to LinkedIn. Lawrence says fully virtual for us. Benjamin, fully virtual. Heather, virtual. Stacy, fully virtual for our firm and amongst most of our clients, primarily SaaS. Another user who's anonymous, virtual and no plans to change that. Virtual. Wow. A lot of folks who are virtual.
Virtual works.
Yeah.
It does.
It's crazy how the pandemic just changed things overnight. I mean, that's the joke, right? Is for years and years we were saying you can do it. And then the managing partners were like, no, you can't really do it. And then overnight we did it. And I think the thing that really set CPA firms up anyway, just speaking from the CPA perspective for this, is audit, right? Audit, you're on site at the client and you're in the office. You have to be mobile. There's no reason you can't do it anywhere. And so like, it was kind of just natural. Tyla said, we transitioned to hybrid prior to COVID, so we downsized on office space and therefore no assigned seating and minimum space in between desks. What this did was make working in the office less productive. One, because of the noise level, and two, seeing people you haven't in a while allows for time spent catching up. I definitely get more work done at home now. Oh yeah, that's something to think about, right? Is the distractions of the office. What do you
And
have
so for
to?
me, the distractions are home, because what I realized is I'm home and in my mind, I'm like, oh, I can just throw this load of laundry in the washing machine, or I can play with the dog, or, my husband or my son will come in and start interrupting me. And I have to remind them I'm like on a call, like you got to put the sign on the door, do not disturb. And then for me, like the time that I was working, it was nonstop. I would wake up, just walk in the office, start working, and then I would come out and have to say, did I brush my teeth today? Because it would just be nonstop. So
Yeah.
for me, having the physical office allows me to, take a shower, put on some pretty clothes, go into the office, and then leave when it's time to leave. But I still have a fully functional office at home with the same setup, to 24-inch monitors, my laptop with a docking station. So I can totally work like a champ from home,
Yeah.
but I easily get distracted with stuff in the house, and I don't like that.
This is a really important takeaway. Just in the first 10 minutes, we've identified something that I think is a misconception of virtual firms, which is this idea that if you are virtual, you don't have an office. You can be totally virtual and have an office. It just means that people aren't required to be there at specific times, right? That to me is, I think, how I would define virtual. It's anywhere, maybe not any time, right, Nayo? Because you said you still have defined work hours.
Yes, because one of the things about being virtual is that you still have to set boundaries with clients, because people hear virtual and they automatically assume you're available 24/7. Just because of how our lifestyles have changed. We can order things and know that it's going to be delivered the next day. So when we say to our clients, we are a virtual office, what they hear is, oh, I can contact you by phone, telephone, text, email, and you're going to respond immediately. So we do have a strict communication policy. Our hours are these and these. You're going to contact us at this time. And if you contact us after those hours, you will not get a response typically until, within 48 hours is what we tell our people. So, like I had a client, I just so happened to be up at midnight working on tax returns. I'll never do that again, people, never. And I emailed him and I didn't hit the schedule button, and he responded right away. And he's in California, 3 hours behind me. So he thought that was the norm. From that point on, he would email 8, 9, 10, 11, midnight, 4 a.m. I was like, absolutely not. We were not doing this anymore.
Okay, so schedule your emails so that they go out during your working hours. That sets a good expectation. A critical error that I have made in my past and still suffer from is giving out my cell phone number. Don't allow clients to do that. Nayo's given a big thumbs down there.
Nope. We have a one-way text number, so we can text them. And they have to opt into it. We can send them a text status, but we will not reply. Absolutely not.
We've got Randy
I've had people
Crabtree.
send me
Sorry, go ahead.
Facebook messages.
Facebook messages? Oh, yeah. Facebook is for your friends,
And they put crazy stuff in these messages. Children's social security numbers, credit card information. I'm like, are you an idiot? Like, it's Facebook. It's not private.
Remember when everyone was taking all those quizzes on Facebook that were asking for all your personal information? Like, what's your mother's maiden name? It's going to create your, I don't know.
Your stripper name.
Yeah, your stripper name, right?
Right. The street you lived on.
Yeah.
When you were 10. And your first pet's name.
Yeah, exactly. Don't do those quizzes. Hopefully everyone's learned their lesson. We've got Randy Crabtree joining us. Randy, great to see you. Randy is the owner of Tri-Merit and big tax credit firm in Chicago. He says, virtual, we have an office that no one is required to go to. We have people all over the country and really just gives us a spot to hang out when someone comes into town. It's not just for small firms, right? Big firms have gone virtual too. And I know I don't know how many head count, but it's dozens, if not hundreds. Yeah.
Right.
Laura is
And
fully virtual. Go ahead, Niall.
I was gonna say one of the toughest challenges when you're managing a virtual firm and versus a brick and mortar is you have to go above and beyond to maintain that camaraderie. And Randy probably knows this, just coming into office is really nice when people can come in and say, hey, good morning. When you're virtual, you kind of, for us social extroverted extroverts, you kind of miss out on that social aspect. So you have to really figure out a way to create it. And I feel like that is probably the biggest challenge when it comes to having a virtual firm, is really kind of building that teamwork and that camaraderie when you are so spread apart, or, in different countries, different time zones.
I would agree. The biggest objection, and I think the most legitimate objection to virtual, is culture. How do you build a strong culture in an accounting or bookkeeping firm when your people are all over the place? And, I'm struggling with this right now. I'm an owner of a business. We are a virtual business. My employees are in California, Ohio, the Philippines, Pakistan. I am here in Arizona, and I have never met most of my employees. We make it work, though. I don't know. Do you have any tips, Nayo, for that? Like, how do you get that water cooler feeling? How do you get that? There's just a je ne sais quoi, right? Of being in the office together. How do you get that in a virtual firm?
So I try to do a one-on-one with the team at least once a week, where we're just kind of kicking it, right? It's not a mandatory thing. It's just kind of like, hey, come hang out. We're having lunch, and we can all just sit and have lunch and chat about what's going on. The kids will pop in, or a pet will come into view. So that helps, because then it gives the team the outlet to like see somebody on Zoom, or just talk about, something that's going on that has absolutely nothing to do with work, and then vent. One of the other things we have a book club now. So we're all reading the same book. And then at some point we'll come together and talk about, what's going on with the book, and what do we think, and how can we implement some stuff we're reading.
I love the book club. That's a great idea.
Yeah. I gave my team all Kindle Paperwhites as a holiday gift. And so, it makes it easy to send them the book that we're reading.
Yeah. The book is on the device that I sent you. You have no excuse not to read it. That's good. Yeah. What book are you reading?
So I finished. They're still reading Disney U.
Disney U. Oh, Disney University.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's I know that from Ron Baker. He's a big fan of Disney University. I think he's attended it.
I want to go now that I've read the book and learned so much about the behind the scenes of Disney. I'm like, this is the kind of stuff I want to implement in my firm. Give me some more ideas. Like, it was very interesting hearing how Walt Disney will walk the park, and just imagine what it would look like from the child's perspective, because in his mind, the child was the client, not necessarily the parents, even though the parents are paying all the money. But he knows that the parents would take the children's lead. So if the children are happy, they're like, okay, this was money well spent. So that's how we're trying to build the firm now, with that kind of mindset. Who's the client? How can we give them these wow moments? How can we, make them feel like this was made for us?
That's great. Yeah, I want to talk more about customer experience later. First, I want to say thanks to Rich for commenting here in the webinar. If you're here in the webinar, you're welcome to chat as well. LinkedIn is really blowing up right now, but hey, we've got a bunch of you here. Chat with us, ask questions. Rich says, I have a brick and mortar firm, and I find an old-fashioned face-to-face meeting can do wonders for both the client and referrals. I'm also focused during work hours and then go home and forget about the place. I think that is also important, right? During tax time, when you're working long hours, admittedly, right? It can be nice to just have a way to disconnect and not have to do work at home. But Nayo, let's address both of those. What about those face-to-face client meetings? Like, how do you?
So we stopped the face-to-face client meetings because what I found is clients, one, I would make mistakes while they were there. If I was trying to do the tax return while they were sitting in front of me, I would always review it after they left, and there was always a mistake. So I was like, I can't keep doing this, because I know I'm social. They want to talk to me. So we're just going to spend the time talking. So what I would do instead, we changed that appointment from a tax prep appointment to a tax document scanning appointment. It was a limited time, so it was 15 to 20 minutes. They would catch me up on all the things while I scanned their documents, and then I would send them on their way. So that was one way to still get that. If you want to do those in-person meetings, because I have absolutely no problem with people who still want to do them, that is one way to get that face time, but not lose productivity or sacrifice, a correct tax return for the chit chat. The other way to do it is I try to send out a video with the return to kind of go over what's happened, the changes we may see from year over year. That for clients has been like a welcome surprise, because they're like, thanks for explaining that to us. And for me, I have my admin call, what I call my seasoned clients. So those are the older ones who aren't as tech savvy, and they love talking to her. So it's really funny, because if I call them, they'll see the number and they will automatically go, "Hey, Ray." And I'm like, "Nope, you got Nayo this time." And they just laugh about it. They think it's the funniest thing ever. But that's because they talk to her now more than they do me.
Well, that's great. I mean, that's a sign that you've delegated, which is something that I think a lot of us struggle with, right? We can't scale because we're having to do everything ourselves. I like the idea of the video a lot. I've heard that from various tax pros, that you make a video walking through the tax return like you would in an in-person meeting, and you send the video link with the return. Can you describe more that? How does that work? What app are you using? Is it like a heavy lift to make these?
Nope, it's not a heavy lift. And everybody who's doing it now got it from me. It's like, I'm joking.
I believe it. We're going to give you
No,
credit, Nayo. Nayo's the originator of the tax return delivery video.
Video review, right?
Yes, put that on Wikipedia.
No, it doesn't take that long. Usually the video is less than 5 minutes. I'm using Snagit to do those videos. If the video is going longer and I need to like drill in on a few things, I will do it in Camtasia, because then I can kind of do some edits and call out some attention grabbing things. And then once I film the video in Snagit, I will save it to their client portal. So it's not living on Loom or anybody's website. It is tucked in neatly with the copy of the client's tax return. Because one thing about choosing a platform to host your videos, you got to know where that data is living. And if we're looking at live social security numbers, I don't feel comfortable with that data being anywhere other than behind I got to log in and see something.
Yep. That's a really good point. I use Loom for a lot of videos with my team, which is fine when it's not PII, right? But when it's social security numbers, what is PII? Personally identifiable information. If you're just sending out a link to a video, anybody can grab that link and see that in the future. And a lot of times there's no expirations on these links too. So yeah, that's really important to think about.
Yeah. But it was one of those things we didn't really have to think about before COVID. But once COVID hit, cybersecurity crime went up 600%. So, it's one of those things that's in the back of your mind. You kind of feel like, oh, this is harmless. I don't have to think about it. But then I saw a couple of people complaining on Twitter that Loom had lost their files. Like the files just disappeared. And I'm like, that data's somewhere.
Yeah, no, it's something we always got to think about when we are using new technology, right? Is where is that data and how secure is that data? We have a question. Catherine said, Nayo, if clients don't have an expectation that your office is manned, when you're in your office space working at whatever hour of the day or night, how do you deal with people that just drop by?
The door's locked.
Is there even a sign on the door?
We have a glass door, so I can see right through the door. So if you come to the office and you yank on the door, you can't get in. There are people in the office, so, I might pop my head out and see who it is. And if they're dropping something off, I will yell, throw it in the mail slot, because you don't have a scheduled appointment. You don't get to see me. You don't get to just steal my time. It's just so funny because one of my clients, actually, their office is right next door and they like to drop by. And I have to tell them the same thing, like, I'm unavailable. I have a work day. Got to make an appointment.
Yep. Yeah, you got to be strict about it, right? You know,
Yeah.
we gotta set expectations.
And I have family members who are clients, and like I have an
Oh,
uncle right now.
those are the, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I have an uncle right now. I love him dearly, but he will not take the phone call from my admin so she can tell him when to drop his documents off. So here we are, April, what's today? The 6th. And he's still like, whenever she calls, he won't answer the phone. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah, family is the hardest, right? If you can get family to follow your processes and procedures, you can pretty much handle anything. That's probably the best test case there.
I have 2 family members left. I'm like, I might have to refer you both out.
So Elizabeth asked Snagit or Loom, and we did answer that. I just want to make sure everyone heard. Nayo uses Snagit, not Loom.
Snagit or Camtasia. So I use those two interchangeably. Yep. Snagit is the easier of the two. So if the video is going to be short, I use Snagit. Camtasia is if the video is going to be longer. So if I feel like I need to really kind of zoom in and drill down on something, I'll use Camtasia just because I can edit it a little fancier there.
Yep. Yeah, I would say I've used both too. They're the same company, same technology. Yes. I would say get started with Snagit. If you want to take it to the next level, then get Camtasia. And Snagit's, I think, a lot less expensive as well.
It is. Plus, as someone told me, it's great for like screen grabs. Somebody described it as like screen grabs on steroids. So it's like you can build these guides just using, snapshots of your screen. So I love Snagit. It is one of the tools that I use probably at least 3 or 4 times a week. It is I don't know where my life would be without it.
So we've spent about half of our time talking about all the great things about virtual firms, but the title of this event is something about how they fail. Why virtual accounting firms fail. So let's talk about that. Why would a virtual firm fail? What factors or signs can you highlight in that regard?
2 main things: structure and processes, right? Just because your firm is virtual does not mean you shouldn't have structure and processes documented and mapped out that you can follow. Because I found that people who are virtual, they're like, I'm just going to get started. And you start your day off and you're like, I don't even know what I'm doing today. And you can kind of get distracted. And then when it's time to build your team, you're like, oh, I hired this VA. And then I'm like, well, what is the VA doing? And I'm like, I don't know. And that was like, I remember that I was like, I need some help. I don't know what kind of help I needed. So I hired a VA. And then she sat for a week with nothing to do because I hadn't fully developed what the process was to say, here, do this. And that was an experiment, expensive experiment on my part because I paid her basically to do nothing. So the first thing I always recommend to anyone who's operating virtually is to really go through and list out the process for every service you're offering. And I mean, every single part of the process, from how you're going to find the client to delivering the product or service and then ending the relationship. It may seem silly, but this is a way for you to figure out what you're going to automate, delegate, or eliminate. And then to set those parameters about how you're going to work. Like, I work from 10 to 6. You may want to work from, 5 to 5. But having that structured day kind of gives you the feeling that you're actually working. Because that's the hard part. We can work virtually and multitask all day.
Yeah, if you're working virtually and you're mixing personal with work, it gets very squishy. And I struggle with this myself. I don't have an office that I go to. I just come up to this extra bedroom. And so for me, it's really easy to just, it all blends together. And sometimes the day ends and I don't know what I did. So for me, I have to use task management, project management, practice management software in order to have a checklist of like, here's the top things I need to do today. And actually, Financial Sense is the sponsor of this event and a great solution to look at. If you do not have practice management software, if you're using spreadsheets or something, check out Financial Sense, because their goal is to make it as easy as possible to set up practice management software, and you can build in those checklists, right?
Yep.
I think that
And it
that's
sounds crazy. Even if
Yeah.
you're working by yourself, a project management system will help organize you.
Yes. It's not just for the people working for you, right? It's for you, your clients. I mean, I'm a, I'm actually sort of, I'm a musician who became a CPA, Nayo. So I'm like the kind of almost the wrong personality for it in many ways. And so if I don't have a practice management solution, I'll forget to run payroll, and I have to have like multiple alerts, like, and because I have those systems, I don't miss it, but I'm not going to remember it. I'm not one of those people. And then as you grow, you just can't rely on your brain to handle everything, right?
Exactly.
So, but I mean, what you said is really important about the process, because in an office, if I hire somebody and I don't have a process for them to follow, I can just walk into the office and figure it out with them that day, right? They're sitting there. I'm like, okay, what are we going to do today? Let's figure it out. You can just sort of do it on the fly. But when you're virtual, you can't do that. You got to have a bunch of stuff for them to do day one. Here's your task. Here, work through these projects, right? Watch these videos, learn these tools, do these certifications. I think that's a great, we did that in my firm, and it was nice because when I hired somebody, we had like a week worth of stuff for them to do just to train up, and it was all set in there. And so I wasn't spending a ton of time sitting on Zoom calls all day long.
Right.
That's the other option, right? Is you want to recreate the office, everybody's on a Zoom all day long, which is like really exhausting.
It is. I get that. The eye tiredness is like, oh, why am I so tired? And then you realize that's because I've been staring at this camera for 8 hours. The normal person is not meant for that.
No. And it's weird because even when you're not looking at it, if you're just hanging out with somebody on Zoom, it still feels exhausting to be on camera all the time, right? Like we can do it for an hour a day like this, and it's fun. But then, the rest of the day we're working, and we're like, okay, I don't have to look perfect all the time. Even in an office, you don't feel that way because you have sort of a privacy that you don't have when there's a camera staring at you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so processes are important, right? Having that practice management software. How else can new virtual firm owners set themselves up for success?
Ooh, that's a good one.
How can they avoid the pitfalls?
The pitfalls, really, the one biggest thing is not to give out your cell phone number.
Don't do it. Just say no.
Just say no. No, really, once you really start getting your client base, helping them, like reinforcing your communication policy and sticking to it. I'm a big fan of choosing a niche or the type of client you want to work with from the start. And I have to remind my new business owners, this is your business. You get to set the terms. Your clients don't tell you how to operate your business. So that would be like me walking into Apple and saying, hey, I'm going to pay you today with a check, and Apple laughing, going, we don't accept checks. You better take this Apple Pay or credit card and get out of here. So don't let your clients basically run over top of you by telling you how you're going to run your firm. Yeah. It's like, we were talking about the whole family thing. I have family that want to be clients. They have to abide by the rules of the firm. They have to now know that this is a business. It's not a little hobby. Like, it might have been cute when I first started and they were just like, oh, I'm going to help my little niece out. But now we have a team and we have to maintain profitability. So you got to pay regular fees. You got to, drop off your documents at the allotted time, and you got to follow the rules.
Follow the rules. It's tough, to set down those rules and especially make family follow them. But, we got to do it.
And it's tough when you're first starting out and you're just like, I just need the money. I need to be able to pay my bills. And I get it. I promise you, I have been there. But it is easier to find a client that meets the parameters you want to work with than it is to get rid of a client who you're undercharging. Because what they'll do is refer all their friends to you, and then you end up with more of them. And
they multiply.
Yeah, and then they drain your energy, and you at the end of the day, you're trying to figure out, why am I so tired? And it's because you realize you dealt with 5 of the same type of client. You're like, they're underpaying, they're over communicating, they're not worth it. Just take a little time, downsize your life if you need. Nobody's going to judge you for that. Go get a part-time job if you need to. It's okay. Like,
Yeah.
but I want you to run your business on your terms. Don't let anybody else define that for you.
Yeah. I'll agree with you 100%, Nayo. I took on work when I was just starting out, and I bent my processes to the client, and I ended up not being able to grow with those clients. I couldn't hand off the work because great example is like invoicing, right? I got into doing customized invoicing for clients. Yeah, you're laughing there. Yeah, right. I mean, once you get into that, unless you have a very like a dedicated person who's going to do that and you can define all that for the client, it's really hard to scale. As opposed to, we only do bill pay and we do it through this particular provider like bill.com, and you have to use that, and that's the only way we do it, and that's scalable, right? Or
Yep.
we'll do payroll for you, but we're not going to use your, unique payroll solution that's only like in your state. We're going to use this, we're going to use this processor that we use for all our clients, that kind of thing.
Yep. And it's hard. I get it. It's hard. Like I had a client, and I remember having to run payroll in between flights going on my honeymoon, because they had a 66-person payroll. And I don't really like clients that have that many employees, because I don't want to be responsible for 66 people getting paid on time. And that's when I knew, it's like, I have to get rid of this client. And they were one of my largest paying clients. But eventually that relationship turned sour. And I was so thankful that I had started building a book of business alongside them, because when the relationship finally was terminated, I was like, woo, okay, now I have my life back. And I didn't feel the pressure or the stress, because I saw it coming before it got there. So
Yeah.
learn from me. Do not take on clients you just don't want to work with, and you don't want to work with, just for the sake of the money.
You don't want to be running payroll on the flight to your honeymoon.
Yes. Look, shout out to Gusto, because I had just started using them, and they have the ability to upload payroll hours. That is what saved me, because all of the hours were in a nifty spreadsheet, and I was able to upload it and get that payroll ran in like 15 minutes, because we had like a 40-minute layover. So,
but still, the stress, not worth it, right?
Exactly. But also the beauty of being virtual is I was able to do that.
So one of the benefits of being virtual is being able to have employees from all over the country, as we discussed, also all over the world. What do you think about offshoring? Are you doing any of it now, Nayo?
So now for bookkeeping services, my admin is in Jamaica. But I am not. I tried using a company before that was in India. There was just too much of a barrier for me. I'd rather pay a little bit more and get some help that kind of understands the US process a little bit better. So plus, I just don't morally, I don't feel right paying people like $5 an hour. That just doesn't feel right to me. It feels very icky. And I know that there are some firms out there that are doing that. More power to you. I'm not knocking you. It's just not my style. If you can make that work, the time zone differences don't bother you. The language barrier doesn't bother you. The cultural differences, you can embrace them, then do it. But for me, I do like my team a little closer to home, that recognize what's going on in the world. They kind of know what's happening, the companies that are here. Like I felt like I was just, when I worked with that team over in India, I was explaining basic things to them. And I was just like, yeah, I don't want to do this. I need somebody who knows what Verizon is.
And there's a compromise, or there's sort of a middle path too, which is when you're virtual, you can do the work here in the United States or very close by, and you can hire people who are in very low cost areas. who are not looking for the compensation of somebody who's in New York or in LA or in Dallas or Seattle, right? And you can often make the economics work. I talk to a lot of firm owners who are doing that, setting up virtual offices essentially in these smaller towns. And
yes, I know a few people. Kristen Keats has a
Mhm.
full team that is in Mexico.
Yeah,
And
Guadalajara.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's got that process nailed down. And
Yeah.
I'm so impressed with how she's managing that. She gets to run her firm the way she wants to.
Yeah. That's what I like about being virtual, is it just gives you so many more options than if you are stuck in that brick and mortar office. Just
Yeah,
in
I
terms of hiring
totally agree
people.
with that
Well,
completely.
and the niching, right? If you want to serve a specific type of customer, you really struggle to do that if you're in anything but like a major metro. There just aren't enough clients that are all the same. Whereas if you're virtual, you could say, I'm only going to serve, I don't know. Give me an example, Nayo.
We like mental health professionals that
There
are
you
kind
go.
of just starting their businesses and they're earning 500K in revenue or less.
That's great. Yeah, I would say actually that's probably the number one thing that you should be able to do before you start your virtual firm is like define that customer, right? Because if you can't get them at the social event, the classic thing to say is you can't get them at the if you can't get them locally, you got to get them online. And you can't just go out and say I serve all small business owners online, because then you're competing against QuickBooks Live, right? You're competing against these giant behemoths that do that. So
Yes,
it doesn't work.
it doesn't. But it's nice if you know who the client is and where they hang out online. So
Yes.
I mentioned the mental health professionals. You're not going to find too many of them on TikTok, but a lot of them will post on Instagram, or they'll post on Facebook, or they're posting on LinkedIn. So it's like I kind of have to know where they are in order to go hang out where they're hanging out.
Mhm.
And so it makes it easier to find that customer and then be able to kind of build a rapport online. And people are like, how are you building a rapport online? Good old fashioned videos, right? People
Yep.
can see your personality through stories or just, what you post. I can tell a lot about a person if they post their pets, right? We know that there are cat lovers and dog lovers. I've gotten clients because, my dog was featured in one of my YouTube videos. They were like, I chose you because you have a dog. It's the weirdest thing, but it, it shined that light on who I was as
Yeah.
a individual, which made them know, like, and trust me. They felt like, oh, I know this girl. She's my friend. I want to work with her.
So that's a really good point. And I'll summarize it this way. I'll say, if you want to build a virtual firm, you've got to have a presence online. And that doesn't mean like you say, I'm going to build a virtual firm, then you go out there and you create this manufactured virtual presence. You have to be yourself, and you have to be in these communities as a real human being. So go find your people online. I was talking to Sandra York. She serves personal fitness, yoga instructors, gym owners, that sort of thing. And she found them all on Instagram, and it's because she's totally into that world. And she was following all of them, and then she just started posting tax tips for personal fitness and built her own following in that world. And now she only serves those kind of clients. So I think that's what you got to do. I think the challenge is you got to have a hobby, right? That really helps. You can't be working so much that you don't have something outside of work.
That does help. But for me, the other piece is, like, if you're already working with clients, look at who's your favorite client you like to work with. Who is this? Like, say, oh, I like Karen. Why do you like Karen? And list out all the things. What does Karen do? Find out the book she's into. I found out, like one of the things I know that people struggle with is finding content to create. If you find out a book that Karen likes and you go on Amazon and look at the reviews for the book, You will find all the things that people who like this type of book are looking for. I found so many little blog posts I can write just looking at the things that the bad reviews. They're like, this book didn't tell me blah, 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 blah. And it's like, oh, I can create some content around that. I
Ooh,
can help this person. So
that's
that was,
good. That's a
yeah.
good tip, Nayo. I'm gonna have to take that one.
Here's
Yeah.
another one. Nobody ever thinks about this one. Pinterest. Back in the day, Pinterest was like the jam. People find people's Pinterest boards, find what they pinned. This is the stuff they like. So if your clients are posting the things that they like and you start highlighting those things on your page, they're going to like you because they're like, I like that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it helps if you like it as well. Let's not forget that, right? Find something that you enjoy. I think that's the thing about creating content that's important is it's going to be so much easier if you enjoy it. Like Nayo, I enjoy talking with you. Whenever I see you at a conference, I say, "There's Nayo. I want to go over and talk to her." And so this is fun, right? This is not work.
No, it's
And I
not
think
work.
that's what, and marketing has to feel like not work if you are a tax or accounting pro, because I mean, who wants to do marketing that feels like doing a tax return, right? We don't, because we got plenty of those.
We do have plenty of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's easy to talk about the things you like. So
Yeah.
it's just like when we talk about apps, right? What apps are you using? Man, I can talk all day
Yep.
about a couple of apps because I'm like, oh, I know all the tips and tricks. This is one I use daily. Like Financial Sense is a new one to my toolbox. So like I'm super excited about all the things they're doing. Matter of fact, did you see that they yesterday just launched this chat GPT integration where you can build your templates using the AI? And I'm like, AI and the project management?
Yeah.
Like I was super excited to test that out.
It's pretty, I just saw the video like this morning before we got on, and I saw that you can type in, make a monthly bookkeeping checklist for a construction company. And it just goes and asks the AI to do it, and it types in 10 tasks right there.
Oh man, I went even deeper with it. I said, prepare a tax return for a married couple that have a rental property and a business and that will need to pay their invoice before I upload documents to the client portal.
And it made the checklist. Oh,
The checklist was awesome. I was like, it's only 3 things I would have changed the
Yeah.
order of or tweaked a little bit. So
Yeah. And that's the
just,
important thing to
you know,
note. You gotta
yes.
tweak it, right? Like it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be. It gives you a starting point, right? It gives you that first draft. Which, when you're staring at a blank checklist and you're trying to think, how do I write a checklist for this thing that I do all the time, but I just don't know where to start. It's really helpful. It's so cool.
And, you know, that's something easy for me to talk about because I love technology and I love automation. So it's like I can talk about these 2 things and it's useful. Let's do it.
So we got a few more minutes. Let's talk about get-togethers. I know a lot of virtual firms that do annual get-togethers. They'll do like they'll fly everyone into a place, spend a week together. Randy said we get together as a firm twice a year. Laura said we do an annual retreat and have monthly game nights / happy hours on Zoom. How about you, Nayo? Are you at that point where you're? I know it's expensive.
It can be expensive. I budgeted for it. I took my entire team came to QuickBooks Connect. We came a few days early and had a team retreat. So I rented a office space in Vegas. So we met there for 2 days. I took them to dinners and shows. And then they got to do some additional learning on their own. So like once the conference started, I was like, fly little birdies, you're on your own. I'm hanging with my friends now. But that was fun because they got to come in and, travel and relax in a bed that they didn't have to share with anyone. Like one of my team members is married. So she's like, oh, I had a king size bed to myself.
Oh,
like
yeah.
It's little things like that.
Oh, yeah.
That, we take for granted. We had a photo shoot, so we took team photos too. So it was pretty cool to see. And I know that there are a few of my friends who use conferences as an opportunity to get together with their team. It just kind of solidifies that learning as well as the bonding, because you can do something fun either before and after.
Mhm.
And, you know, I feel like you're saving expenses because you were going to send the team to the conference anyway. Why not just tack on a couple more days?
Yeah.
And it makes it an opportunity to bond.
That's
You mentioned
brilliant.
something about happy hours. I want to talk
Happy
about
hours,
that.
online happy
Yes.
hours. So, I mean,
Mhm.
I got to be honest, I'm not a fan of like virtual happy hours.
Most
I,
people are not. And I found out that happy hours can be exclusionary for people who are
yeah, if you
who
don't drink,
are,
right?
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
you know, I don't drink most times you'll find me with a ginger ale in my hand. But you know, I'm not a recovering alcoholic. So we got to think about these kind of things too, is when we're building our team, we have to be mindful of things that people may be going through that they haven't publicly shared.
Yeah.
And so switching up those events, you know, I like virtual magic shows. I'm a weirdo like that. Or the virtual cooking experiences. You know, everybody kind of gets the food and then you cook it together. I think that's kind of cool. I haven't done that with my team, but it's on my I got a little checklist of here's some ideas I want to do.
Yeah.
And those are a couple that are on there that
I think you got to be careful as a firm owner, right? Like not everybody on your team, especially as you get more and more team members, are going to be into the same things you are. And it can fall into the same pitfall, the same trap as in a physical firm where like I was in a big accounting firm office downtown, well, West Side LA. And like the constant pressure was to go to the happy hours. And like I felt in retrospect, I feel bad for the people that didn't like going to happy hours, and a lot of people would drink too much. It was, you know, there's this culture in
yeah.
accounting of like we drink a lot because we work a lot, and that can be a problem. And I think we just need to be cognizant of that. Yeah,
And
in
it can be, you know, it can be exclusionary for those people who are trying to do the upward mobility, but because they're less social, they're seen like they're not team players.
Yep.
So we also have to think about that too, you know. So like one of the pitfalls to working virtually is, or I should say one of the benefits is that you don't necessarily get to lump people in these bubbles in the way you would if they were working in a traditional office. You may not know that this person is an introvert versus this person who's an extrovert.
Yeah.
Because when they show up to Zoom, they do what they need to do and then they get off. But then as the team continues to grow, you can see who's really dedicated. And what are they dedicated to? So you also have to kind of figure out what's important to each
Yeah.
individual versus the whole team likes this. And it's like, no, they don't.
This is one of the things that's so awesome about virtual firms is they can be incredibly diverse, right? Like you get people from all over the country, all over the world, all different backgrounds. And yeah, you got to manage that, trying to create an environment that everybody's happy in. Like that's something you got to think about, right? And yeah, I'll tell you that accounting firm that I worked at wasn't particularly diverse. So, you know, maybe the happy hours worked for that crowd, but yeah, you definitely can't force that onto people from all over, you know.
Right.
It's just
Exactly.
so we got some chatter about the AI stuff, Nayo. People got excited about what you're talking about there. Megan asked what was the name of the GPT mentioned app that Nayo mentioned that she liked.
It's in Financial Sense.
Yeah, the sponsor, the host of this event that put this all together, Financial Sense. Thank you. It's there now, I guess, right?
Yeah, they've launched. I think it was yesterday morning or yeah, it was yesterday they launched it. So it is live, baby.
Yeah, go to financial-sense.com and you can try it for free and check it out. That's really neat. I've actually been I'm going to send out a survey to all of the different apps that I follow and ask them, what are you doing with GPT? What are you doing with Chat GPT or AI? And now I've already got an answer from one of them. Brian says, I can't wait to be able to turn my inbox over to AI and it drafts responses for me. Yeah.
Man, let me tell you, inbox management is a hard one. There was a company. So my admin actually came from a company I was using called Inbox Done. Basically what they do is they have a team that will manage your inbox for you. They will kind of highlight the most important emails of the day. And then they can respond on your behalf. So, you know, that was one of the things that I'm so glad to delegate, because we get a lot of emails. And even now, we're still trying to figure out the best way to handle them all. But one thing, create templates for common responses, and have those little fill in the blank moments. So like, for example, if you do tax prep and you're going to be requesting documents or any information from a client after you do the initial sweep of entering all the data they sent, I have a template that says, what the subject should be and then the body of the email. And we have like 3 bullet points on there that I send to a lot of clients. Like, I need the residency documents and these are the documents that it includes, or you answered yes to I sold some virtual currency. We didn't see this form. So having those kind of already set up in a file, a swipe file makes life easier. We're using an app called Type Desk for that. It's one of my,
Type Desk.
Yeah. I'm gonna make sure I pull the right link for that.
What a great recommendation.
It makes life so much easier because then you can share it with the team. So as your business grows, you're all on the same playing field.
I am so excited at the potential for AI to automate a lot of that, right? To make it easier. I mean, creating those canned responses is great. I do it a little bit, but I'm negligent. You got to really put in the time to make them. But AI,
I just copy and paste it. So if I send the email, I will just copy what I sent to the client and then save it.
Yeah.
And then go back later and maybe pull out the personalized bits. I'll be like, okay, I'll use this for later, right? Yeah. And once and this integrates with Gmail, so it makes it easy because I can just select the one I want.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ease of use is really important, right? It's just gotta be easy to update, easy to create them, easy to send them. Wow.
And I do a bunch of stuff from my cell phone, and I know there are a lot of people who are like, oh no, stay away from the cell phone. I like my keyboard shortcuts. So I'm very famous for answering emails from my cell because I have a bunch of things saved under keyboard shortcuts. It's like, when you're on Facebook and somebody's recommending you for it because they're like, I need an accountant. And you get the tag. I have one that's called referral. And I say, thank you for the tag, such and such. When you're ready, go ahead and schedule this link. I just type one little word and a number. And all of that pops up because I found myself typing it over and over and over again. I was like, yeah, we got to stop this. We got to automate it some kind of way. So.
Well, Nayo, you have just been full of gems of information. Thank you so much. It's been great talking to you. And before we go, I want to make sure that I thank Financial Sense, who has put this series together. This series is called Grow and Scale. It's a monthly series brought to you by Financial Sense, an accounting practice management software loved by over 1,000 accounting firms for its ease of use and tailored features. Learn more at www.financial-sense.com. And thanks to everyone who's joined us. It's been so much fun. I'm going to hang out here and just make sure that I didn't miss any questions or chat, and we'll close things down. And Nayo, I know you got a few more tax returns to do before you're done for the season, so we'll respect your time and let you head back to all that fun.
All right, I'll hang out if there's any questions. If not, I will go eat my lunch that came super late.
Let's see. We got to thank you. Thank you, Nayo.
Thank you for having me, people.
It's been wonderful.
Yes, these are all fun. I'm so passionate about going virtual. It's the reason I started the Taking Your Firm Virtual Summit, so that
tell us all about that. What's the URL?
takingyourfirmvirtual.com. Right now, the wait list is up, but you can get a sneak peek. The dates of this year's events are August the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Let me confirm before I give you before I tell you the dates and they're wrong.
No worries. Rowan says, I've loved this conversation and I wish Nayo could join every time. Thanks to you both. Fantastic.
Yes, August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Those are going to be the dates. It's going to be fun time. You're going to hear more about how accountants in our community have taken their firms virtual in such a meaningful way. And for anybody who's looking to hang out with me, I play a lot on Twitter. Nayo Carter Gray, NayoCarterGray.
And I am at Blake T. Oliver. Follow Nayo. I won't be as entertaining as Nayo. I apologize. I'm just going to say that right out of the gate. Set low expectations.
No, I don't know what you're talking about, Blake Oliver. Plus, Blake hangs out more on LinkedIn than I do. And if you've ever seen Blake's posts, man, his posts are very insightful, entertaining, and engaging. So I don't even know what he's talking about.
Well, thank you so much, Nayo. I appreciate that.
Yes, I adore you.
I don't see any more questions. So let me check LinkedIn one more time. Yep, I think we got it.
All right. Thanks, you.
Nayo. Thank you, Financial Sense. Thanks, everyone who joined us.
Thank you, Blake.